The campaign's control. The January 6th committee is scheduling more hearings, likely in September. Have you been asked to testify? Would you testify?
No, I had nothing to do with January 6th.
If they asked you to testify, though, would you?
What would they ask me to testify about?
The Republican electors and the slate.
Again, it's another grotesque distortion. I had nothing to do with the alternate slate. I had no idea that anybody was going to ask me to deliver those. My involvement in that attempt to deliver spanned the course of a couple seconds. I think I fielded 3 texts and sent 2 and talked to my chief of staff that somebody wants you to deliver something. Yeah, I knew nothing about it. And in the end, those electors were not delivered because we found out from Vice President's staff they didn't want them delivered. End of story. Again, I know that's been blown out of proportion.
You think so?
The January 6th committee didn't do their due diligence, and they blew us into like some massive conspiracy. Again, I had like virtually no involvement. Literally, my involvement lasted seconds. Okay.
If the Vice President's chief of staff wanted to say, don't deliver these, would you have brought that document to the Vice President?
In what way could have I? Again, we did our due diligence. So somebody handed us something. We're supposed to deliver to the Vice President. Does he want it? Nope. Okay. End of story. That was it.
You see, Ron Johnson's involvement in the scheme to deliver an envelope with an alternate slate of electors to the Vice President for the express purpose of overturning a free and fair election only lasted a few seconds. And as we all know, when it comes to efforts to subvert democracy and install an authoritarian dictator as president in an election that he lost, the 5-second rule applies. So actually, Ron Johnson's legally in the clear. And this is good news for any criminals out there. If you murdered someone, you can just go to court and claim the Ron Johnson defense, that your finger was only on the trigger for 1 second, and so how could you possibly be held accountable? Just tell the judge that your involvement
spanned the course of a couple seconds.
Stab someone in the street? Just keep it to a few stabs and then tell the cops
spanned the course of a couple seconds.
Oh, it's ridiculous to judge someone's crime by the speed with which they committed it? You don't say. Notice too how Johnson also thinks he's absolved because, as he says, in the end those electors were never delivered because we found out from the Vice President's staff that they didn't want them delivered. In other words, apparently you could try to commit a crime, but so long as you're not successful, you're in the clear. Got it. Now, if it seems like Ron Johnson's trying his level best to turn this story into a non-issue, that's because he's had plenty of practice. Here he is in June when he was first asked about this scheme.
I didn't deliver. We called them up. He didn't want it, and we didn't deliver it.
But why did you even offer it without vetting it?
Exactly. We got handed an envelope that was supposed to go to the Vice President. I didn't know. So we called out the Vice President. He didn't want it. We didn't deliver it. It's end of story. Guys, this is such a non-story.
Are you going to ask who got it?
When you had received the envelope?
Pardon?
Was that the first you had heard of it when you received the envelope? And do you remember who gave it to you?
It was a staff-to-staff deal. I mean, it apparently had Michigan and Wisconsin. I had no hand in any of it. Again, this lasted a couple minutes in our office, and the episode is over. Again, this is total non-story.
Are you going to ask your aides about who this person was? Have you asked?
We did. No, literally don't. It was a staff-to-staff. Somebody from the House, some staff intern, said we got to. The Vice President needs this or whatever. I wasn't involved. I don't know what they said, but somebody from the House delivered it to a staff member in my office, my chief of staff. Called the Vice President, hey, we got this. And the Vice President said, don't deliver it. We didn't.
Are you curious about the identity of this person? Are you curious about the identity of this person? Do you want to ask about it?
No, because there's no conspiracy here. This is a complete non-story, guys. Complete non-story.
But I mean, I still don't understand. If you get an envelope...
If this were a real committee, they'd be asking, why wasn't the Capitol secured? Who was in charge of that security? This is a total partisan witch hunt, and I was not involved in this at all. So I don't know why you're even asking the questions. So why don't you just leave me alone?
If the committee reaches out and they want to talk to your staff about this, would you allow them to cooperate if they wanted to know which House office asked you guys to do this?
Trust me. When this news broke, I asked the questions. Nobody knows. Again, these are interns. There's staff. Okay, we have no idea.
But it was your chief of staff who sent this information over.
No, it was my chief of staff that contacted. He just came from the White House, first day on the job. He called up somebody he knew in the Vice President's staff. Hey, we got this. and the vice president would don't deliver tests, and we didn't.
Now, all of this is in reference to the video that was aired during the latest January 6th committee hearing.
A staffer for Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson texted a staffer for Vice President Pence just minutes before the beginning of the joint session. This staffer stated that Senator Johnson wished to hand deliver to the vice president the fake electors' votes from Michigan and Wisconsin. The vice president's aide unambiguously instructed them not to deliver the fake votes to the vice president. Even though the fake elector slates were transmitted to Congress and the executive branch, the vice president held firm in his position that his role was to count lawfully submitted electoral votes.
Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes.
Which is what he did when the joint session resumed on January 6th after the attack on the Capitol.
Now, in Ron Johnson's denial, he claims that this was all but a mere discussion between two aides that he has zero awareness of. But why would an aide say that, quote, Johnson needs to hand something to V. POTUS? If it didn't come from Johnson, why frame it as literally coming from Johnson? And if Johnson really didn't have anything to do with it, then why is this aide the one who's calling the shots regarding what a U.S. Senator and the Vice President of the United States do? And why would Johnson's office even humor this suggestion? Again, if what Johnson said is true, then this is a random House intern who was able to get his hands on an unconstitutional fake elector scheme document and then get a U.S. Senator's chief of staff to take it, who then nearly delivered it to the Vice President of the United States. I'm sorry, but what? Is it that easy to get any random illegal document straight up the chain in the GOP? All it takes is one House intern to hand someone a packet and all of those aides fall over themselves to deliver it? Is there a little scrutiny on the right? I know that Johnson might take his own supporters to be fools, but does he really think the rest of us are? So look, I'm not saying that Johnson knew about it, but I am saying that his explanations as to how this packet nearly ended up in Pence's hands don't make any sense. I get that Johnson wants to play dumb to diffuse responsibility off of himself, but believing his explanation would suggest that basically any House intern can tell a U.S. Senator in his office to jump, and they'll just blindly ask how high. The more likely explanation, of course, is that Johnson and his office were not only aware of what this packet was, but were responsible for pushing it. But I know that acknowledging that would suggest responsibility, and I'm not exactly sure we can ever expect a member of the party of personal responsibility to take personal responsibility. So look, Ron Johnson will continue to try and downplay his actions as they relate to what happened on January 6th, but pretending it was no big deal doesn't manifest that into reality. And if the January 6th committee rightly calls him to testify, we'll see whether they treat Johnson's actions as breezily as he's treating them himself right now. Before you go, couple things. First, if you want to support my work, the best way is to subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. And second, if you want to see and hear more from me, check out my website, briantylercohen.com. That way you can get links to my podcast, merchandise, ways to donate to voting rights organizations, and so much more. The thumbnail is also right here on the screen, so go check it out. And as always, thank you so much for watching.